Muhammad Ali's family just beat up Jake Paul after this man couldn't handle a sparring session and got knocked out cold. I mean, this guy who's supposed to be fighting in the heavyweight division soon can't even take a couple of punches from his sparring partner? That's beyond embarrassing. Remember when Jake, all smug, laughed at Ali, claiming he was just overhyped because he got KO'd in sparring? Well, Ali saw those knockouts as lessons and went on to become the greatest boxer of all time. Jake, on the other hand, can't even measure up to Ali's toenail, but still had the audacity to talk trash. Now he's got to deal with the humiliation from a family that's got Ali's fighting spirit in their veins. Jake, there's always someone ready to put you in your place. I'm pretty sure you've heard of Muhammad Ali. I mean, who hasn't? But do you really know why he's called the greatest? It's not just because of his boxing skills. Sure, there are loads of boxers out there, but Ali is in a league of his own, and for good reasons. Muhammad Ali, the guy who floated like a butterfly and sting like a bee, wasn't just a boxer. He was a global icon, a cultural phenomenon. Born Cassius Clay in 1942, Ali won the world heavyweight title 3 times and became a symbol of resistance, strength, and eloquence. His battles weren't just in the ring. He fought for civil rights and took a bold stand against the Vietnam War, sacrificing years of his prime boxing career for his principles. Ali's name isn't just in the boxing history books, it's a synonym for defiance and the pursuit of greatness. Now let's shift gears and talk about Jake Paul. Yep, that social media sensation turned boxer who's made headlines not just for his knockouts, but for his big mouth. Jake, in his typical loudmouth style, once dismissed Ali as just hype. Really, Jake? The same Ali who took down Sonny Liston, Joe Frazier, and George Foreman? The same Ali who's remembered as much for his verbal jabs as his physical ones? That's like calling the Grand Canyon a ditch. Jake Paul's recent sparring knockout is a far cry from Muhammad Ali's early days. Sure, Ali got knocked down during sparring early in his career, but there's a massive difference in how each handled it. For Ali, these knockouts were lessons, not humiliations. He saw them as part of the journey, a necessary step towards greatness. Ali's sparring knockouts weren't hidden scandals. They were badges of honor. He faced each setback with resilience, learning and improving until he became the unstoppable force we all know. Now, let's look at Jake Paul's recent sparring disaster. Here's a guy who's built his brand on bravado and trash talk, getting floored in what's supposed to be a learning session. Unlike Ali, who embraced his early knockouts, Jake tried to sweep this incident under the rug. But thanks to the internet, the footage leaked, and the world saw the so-called future of boxing laid out on the canvas. Instead of using this as a stepping stone, Jake's reaction seemed more about damage control than personal growth. The Ali family's roast wasn't just about mocking Jake Paul. It was a celebration of their father's legacy and the values he embodied. Muhammad Ali was known for his sharp wit and his ability to use words as effectively as his fists. His children, inheriting both his humor and his fighting spirit, used this opportunity to highlight the stark difference between true boxing legends and those who ride the sport's coattails for fame. And this humiliation is spot on because the kind of experience Jake is having, combined with his overconfidence, just makes him look like someone who's not all there mentally. His professional boxing debut was on January 30th, 2020, against fellow YouTuber Anison Gibb, whose real name is Ali Louis Al-Fakhri. The fight went down at the Meridian at Island Gardens in Miami. Despite Anison Gibb not having any real boxing experience, the match was hyped to the max and caught a lot of attention. Jake Paul won by technical knockout, TKO, in the first round. Sure, it was a decisive win, but let's be real here. Anison Gibb wasn't exactly a serious boxer. The dude's background was more about online content creation than throwing punches in the ring. Fast forward to November 28, 2020, and we have Jake's second professional fight against former NBA player Nate Robinson. This match was part of the undercard for the Mike Tyson vs. Roy Jones Jr. exhibition fight at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Now, Robinson might have been a 3-time NBA slam dunk contest champion, but let's face it, he was making his boxing debut. The mismatch was clear, and Jake knocked him out in the second round. Another win for Jake, but critics were quick to point out that beating a retired basketball player doesn't exactly make you a boxing legend. On April 17, 2021, Jake Paul took on retired mixed martial artist Ben Askren at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Askren was known for his wrestling and MMA skills, not for his boxing. Despite his combat sports experience, Askren's striking was pretty subpar. Jake won by TKO in the first round, and the critics had a field day. They argued that beating a guy with no boxing chops wasn't proving much of anything. Then came Tyron Woodley, another retired MMA fighter and former UFC welterweight champion. Their fight on August 29, 2021 at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland was different. Woodley had more striking experience, making the bout more competitive. Jake won by split decision after 8 rounds, but the win wasn't without controversy. Questions about Jake's endurance and technical skills lingered, especially since it was Woodley's boxing debut. The rematch with Woodley happened on December 18, 2021 at the Amalie Arena in Tampa, Florida. This time, Jake secured a knockout victory in the 6th round. While the knockout was impressive, critics argued that beating the same opponent again didn't do much for Jake's credibility. So that's the whole experience, something you can count on one hand, and Jake is over the moon about it. And Jake Paul is in the headlines these days, but not because he backed out of the fight with Mike Tyson. Nope, it's all about his upcoming bout with Mike Perry. Now Perry, known for his brutal style in mixed martial arts and the bare-knuckle boxing, found himself in the boxing spotlight for a whole different reason. This guy, who doesn't hold back in the ring or in his words, recently spilled the tea about his sparring sessions with Jake Paul. And let me tell you, it was as brutal as one of Perry's knockouts, showing just how shaky Jake's actual skills are compared to the polished image he sells to his fans. It all kicked off during a private sparring session at a gym in Miami. Jake Paul, strutting in with his usual overconfidence, stepped into the ring with Perry, maybe not fully grasping what he was in for. Perry, a seasoned fighter with a reputation for flooring even the toughest opponents, wasn't there to mess around. Within the first minute, bam! Perry had knocked Jake out cold, putting a significant dent in Jake's self-proclaimed invincibility. And it wasn't a fluke or a lucky punch. It was a calculated move by Perry, who saw right through Jake's flashy exterior to the lack of solid boxing fundamentals underneath. Perry didn't hold back when he talked about the session. In an ESPN interview, he described Jake's performance as underwhelming and amateurish. Jake Paul talks a big game, but when you're in the ring with someone who's been in real fights, it shows. He's not ready for the big leagues, Perry said. His words echoed what many in the boxing world had been thinking all along. Jake's boxing legitimacy was questionable at best. Perry pointed out that Jake's training seemed more about looking good for the cameras than actually honing real skills. He's more interested in his social media following than putting in the hard work. You can't just post videos of yourself punching bags and expect to beat real fighters. The sparring session and Perry's comments highlighted a glaring contrast between Jake Paul's self-promotion and his actual performance. Jake's built this massive following by portraying himself as a serious boxer, someone who can take on and defeat seasoned pros. His YouTube videos and Instagram are full of slickly edited training montages, trash-talking clips, and boasts about his prowess. But as Perry's revelation showed, there's a vast difference between performing for the camera and performing in the ring. This hit particularly hard, striking at the core of what makes a true boxer. Physical skills are one thing, but without mental toughness and dedication, those skills mean squat in the ring. As Perry kept talking, more details about the sparring session came out. Insiders revealed that Jake Paul had seriously underestimated Perry, treating the session more like a publicity stunt than a real training opportunity. Big mistake. Perry, known for his relentless aggression and tactical sharpness, saw through Jake's act almost immediately. The knockout punch, delivered with precision and power, was a wake-up call for Jake and a harsh reminder that boxing isn't a sport you can fake your way through. This wasn't the first time Jake's lack of serious training had been questioned, but Perry's first-hand account brought a new level of credibility. Perry, with his experience and no-nonsense approach, was a credible voice in combat sports. His observations were hard to dismiss as mere jealousy or baseless criticism. For Jake Paul, Perry's revelations were a harsh reality check and a significant blow to his carefully crafted image.